Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Autism Confidential, the podcast from National Council on Severe Autism. If you didn't notice, we took the summer off. The people who run the podcast are volunteers, and we are very busy with our charges and loved ones over the summer. So some things get kind of backburnered. But it's September, and we are back in action. And this month, I wanted to let everyone know that in observance of the September 26th project, which I will discuss in a second, we are featuring a series of podcasts focusing primarily on the issue of safety, first responders, and emergency preparedness. The September 26th project was started last year in honor of our founding vice president, Feda Almaliti, and her son, Mohammed, who perished tragically in a house fire on September 26, 2020, in their home in Fremont, California. And basically, the September 26th project was created so that every September, around the time of their deaths, we remind people throughout the autism and special needs community to maybe take some simple steps to engage in emergency preparedness. So this month, you will see from us in our newsletter, on our website, our social media, etc., different ideas about what you can do. Some things are very simple. Like last year, what I did in observance of September 26th was I bought a fire extinguisher. We didn't have one in the house. And I checked our smoke alarms. Simple things like that. But there are many, many other things you can do. We don't mean to be oppressive or burdensome, but just every year, a gentle reminder with some hopefully inspirational ideas and stories. So with that prolonged introduction, I turn this over to our first podcast of September, and it's an interview with someone who was a very, very dear friend of Feda's, the wonderful autism leader here in the Bay Area, Mizpah Brown-Rich. And then the next episode after that will be with another person who is friends with Feda, Kate Movius, and Kate is extremely active in Los Angeles, in LA County, when it comes to addressing wandering, which is, as we know, just a huge issue for children and adults with autism. Okay, guys, signing off. I hope you enjoy and get something out of the podcasts this month. Oh, also, the podcast after that, not yet recorded, will be with the wonderful people from the National Autism Association who have done amazing work on safety and especially wandering. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the NCSA podcast, Autism Confidential. I'm your host today, Jill Escher, president of NCSA. And we've been on kind of a break because it's summer and everybody's been on a break. But I'm happy to be recording another podcast with a really, really special guest today, Mizpah Brown-Rich. Hello, Mizpah.
Hi, Jill. Thank you so much for having me.
Mizpah is a really interesting person and doing amazing things for our community. She's actually here in the Bay Area near me. You're just kind of like that way from where I am now.
Yeah.
You're actually in my time zone, which is really rare when I record these things. And we're going to talk about a couple of things today. We're going to introduce you to Mizpah and the amazing things she's doing with her nonprofit called Joshua's Gift. We're also going to talk about a mutual friend of ours, Feda Almaliti, who was the founding vice president of NCSA and who I think, as most of you know, tragically passed away in September of 2020 in a house fire as she was trying to rescue her son, Mohammed. It's a devastating tragedy, I think, from which none of us have fully recovered and will ever fully recover. But we're going to cover a lot of territory here within our 30-minute allotment. Mizpah, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jill.
Thanks for taking the time. You're a super busy person. I wanted to start off, if you don't mind, just telling people about your background. I know you're from the Bahamas. You now live here in California. I know you have a son with autism. I know you run this nonprofit. I know that you've had an interesting professional history. Would you mind giving us the rundown?
Yes. So I was born and raised in the Bahamas. I come from a family of, there's 9 of us. My parents had not, my parents actually had 12 kids, and unfortunately they lost 3, but that was even before I was born. So, so yes, there is 9 of us, and I come from an amazing family. I have lots of nieces and nephews and sisters and brothers that I absolutely love with all my heart. And we're so close with each other, and we would do anything for each other. And both our parents are gone now, but as a family, we stay in touch like every Thursday. And we've been doing this since we were kids. Every Thursday, we get together on Zoom or Skype, and we meet up.
All
And
9 of you? All 9 of you?
all of us, yes, including
That
our
is the
kids.
most non-dysfunctional family I've ever heard of.
And we do it every Thursday, and we look forward to it. And my oldest brother lives in Baton Rouge, and for myself, I'm the only one that lives in California, and we are the only 2 that live that live in the United States. The others are in the Bahamas. Well, I take it back. My youngest brother just relocated to North Carolina. But yeah, and we haven't seen each other. All of us haven't come together in a few years. I think the last time we were together was when my mom passed about 6 years ago. And so we are gearing up to get together this holiday season, Christmas, and we're going to meet up hopefully in Florida. I'm usually the one that's rallying and planning everything, right?
Like you have nothing else to do.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I want to see a picture when you guys get together, please.
Yes.
Send it
Oh
to
my
me.
gosh. Yes. Yes.
So how did you end up in California, and tell us about your son?
Yeah. So I wound up in California shortly after I graduated from high school, and I graduated a year early. But my father, who just was always a forward thinker, always thinking way ahead, and was really advanced in his thinking, he always sent us off to college in 2s so that we could have another sibling there. And so when it came to my youngest brother and I, we were the 2 babies in the family. My father actually passed before I started college, but he wanted me to get acclimated into the US. And so he sent me here to California because my oldest sister at the time, was finishing up her thesis and going for a PhD at Stanford. And so he said, okay, because we always, when I send my kids off, I want you guys to always have each other. And so I came and I lived with her on campus, and I went to Palo Alto Senior High. I went back for a year at high school because I was only 16 going on 17. And so I went back to I went to Pali High. And then from there, my sister graduated and was getting ready to leave. But prior to that, I was able to get into college and went to San Francisco State University and majored in broadcasting. And yeah, after graduating from there, then I went on to do my internships at the KTVU and KRON TV with Pam Moore, and then started working in the industry, and then transitioned over into technology years later. And then, started a family. Actually, my husband and I got married in the Bahamas. I was actually working at KTVU at the time, and we left and got married in the Bahamas. And because tradition, again, to keep tradition going, he had to go and meet my family and ask for my hand in marriage. And he had to speak to all 8 of my siblings. And my mom, because dad had already passed, and my mom, and get their approval. And so it was a big deal. I was the last in the family to get married. So it was a big deal for mommy. And so, yeah. And then we Yeah, started our lives here. And then years later, about 5 years later, we had Caston Joshua Rich. And he was and still is one of the light of our lives. And we were ready for him. We were ready for him. And so he was born in 2001. And
I'm sorry, you cut out for just a second. Born
yes,
in
he
what?
was born in 2001.
2001. Okay, I can
Yes.
do the math.
So
So
he's
he's
21.
21.
Yes, Jill. My baby is 21 years old now.
Yeah. So he's finishing
I
up school now.
he's about to age out next
Hmm.
year. Yes.
Yeah.
So he's an amazing young man, but he was an amazing kid. Oh my God. He had okay, when we had Casted, people used to literally stop me in the malls everywhere I went because Jill, he had the biggest, curliest afro. And it was bigger than him. And I would be pushing him around in the stroller, and people would come up. Is this here real? I'm like, oh, it's real. It's real. He was just an amazing baby. I wish I had a photo to show you, you know. I mean, I have several around here, but yes. And then he was just hitting his milestones, developing. My mom and my two sisters came out when he was born, and they were with me. They were with me, and again, our culture and how we support each other. They were here for about 4 months. They were here for 4 months, and they spoiled us because they helped take care of Caston and did everything for us because I was exhausted. And so he was diagnosed with autism at 2.5, and that was right around the time his sister came into the world. And thank God my family was here when we got the diagnosis, but we were just blown away. First, I didn't know what autism was. I wasn't really aware of it. I had taken one class in psychology in college and saw a video of the images of autism, but it was Rain Man, and so that was the first thing I thought was, oh my God, is this what our son is going to be like? And so we were devastated. And I remember, Kerry just going into the room and shutting himself from the world, and crying for 3 days.
Yeah.
He had all these
similar
plans
story
for his
here.
son. Yeah. And we had so many plans,
And you had your other siblings didn't have kids with autism.
Exactly.
None in your family, just
it
like
was
me.
Not
Same thing, kind of came out of the blue.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It hit you like a ton of bricks. And
Yep.
And so him being the first, we didn't know what to expect, or the expectations we had set for him shifted dramatically. It was like, but Carrie came out. My sisters were here, like I said, with me and my mom, and they were really my support and was able to help me navigate through my emotions, and what I was feeling at the time. Carrie, on the other hand, as a dad, he took it he took it severely.
Yeah.
And so his response was very different from mine. But he came out, I'll never forget his eyes when he came out the third day, and he looked at me and he said, it's time to roll up our sleeves and go to work for this kid. He is a gift. He is a gift, and he's a blessing to us. And we have to, we have to take care of this gift. And like that was on, I remember that was on late Friday afternoon. And that Monday morning, first thing he was on the phone calling the regional center. Okay, what kind of services can we get? Within 2 weeks, Jill, we had a speech pathologist in the home. We had an OT person in the home starting with him, and then we've been advocating ever since.
So yes, you certainly have been, and you've been really trying to help other families as well. So
Absolutely.
Let's fast forward a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know how long ago, but you started a nonprofit. Tell me why you started this nonprofit and how it's developed over the years.
So we started the nonprofit actually in 2017. And we were inspired by Caston Joshua Rich, our son. His middle name is Joshua. And so we named the foundation after him, called Joshua's Gift. And the reason we started the foundation, and I struggled with it in the beginning, because I was like, where am I going to find the bandwidth? I've been working a professional job full time, and I was doing a lot of traveling as well in my job at the time, and raise him and run the home. How am I going to do all of these things? Yeah. Right? Yet I had this burning desire to help other families that were just learning about autism, that were just getting their diagnosis and didn't know what resources were out there and where to go and what they can do to navigate their way through the diagnosis. And so we started the foundation, because I felt too that I still believe this, that every single family deserves, that has a kiddo on the autism spectrum, young or old, deserves to be filled with love and acceptance and inclusion and adventure in this, in society. And we knew that when we were taking, Joshua out into the community, we experienced a lot. People were judging my parenting, and people were not holding back. People were not very sensitive at all. I recall vividly going to a mall in San Francisco, and I was with a dear friend of mine, and thank God she was there with me. And we had taken Joshua and his little sister, who was with us as well. And coming out of one of the stores, he had a meltdown that I just did not expect. But I knew also too some of the calming mechanisms that I could use, because I knew him so well. And in that moment, he dropped to the ground and just started crying profusely. And I knew that it could be that he had gone into sensory overload and just didn't know how to regulate himself. And I didn't expect him to. He cried a lot. He was only like about 5 years old at that time. So I got on the ground with him, and I started. I did
in a mall in San Francisco.
In a mall, right? Jill, I couldn't care less what anyone was thinking, what they were doing, what they were saying. I was completely oblivious to the audience, and so I got out on the ground with him, and I started singing to him. And I knew every time I sing to him, it calms him. And sure enough, it calmed him, and he stopped crying, and he just held me around the neck. And I was like, okay, babe. I said, okay, sweetheart, it's time to go. I think you're a little overwhelmed. It's time to go. And my dear friend, I'm so glad she was with me, because she was able to hold my daughter at the time. Had I been alone, it would have been a little more challenging. But Jill, I kid you not, when I stood up and looked around, there was easily about 75 people just standing around looking on the bottom level where we were. And some of them were, on the upper level, just, maybe out of curiosity, maybe out of, who knows, But I was happy that I was able to calm him and was able to get him out of there safely as well. That was the most
think
important.
we all have these incredible stories about public, mini calamities that happen with our kids, and sometimes very positive, public responses, and sometimes very negative. I mean, I've been accused of being a terrible parent.
Yes.
When my son was throwing things or, stealing someone's French fries, whatever. And and you're like, well, I don't have time for the mini lecture right now.
Right. Or even to explain
so
to you.
Maybe I should just ignore this person for a minute and move on.
Yes.
So Joshua's Gift has done interesting things right here in the Bay Area. Can you just to inspire some of our listeners, by someone, you're such a do-gooder, Mizpah the do-gooder.
That's what Feda used to say. You must stick around her too long. She used to tell me that all the time. We were the yin and the yang. She always used to say, I'm the goody two shoe and she's not.
Yeah, that's for sure.
She always tried to influence me. She's like, come on, miss, come on over.
We're going to corrupt you, Mizpah.
Right.
Yeah. I know your father was a religious man, but
yes.
Yeah.
And I tried to stay on that path.
Yeah, right. And you have. But tell us some tales of things that you've done, because I think you do creative work, and that other people might want to hear about.
Yeah, thank you so much. So through Joshua's Gift, we provide financial support. We provide social excursions, health and wellness support for families in the community, living in the community with autism. And we started partnering with local venues here in the Bay Area to allow families to go out into the public and to enjoy social outings without the challenges that we typically have to face when we're going out into the public, right? Mm-hmm. And let me give you an example. We were going to a Warriors game. One night, it was Autism Awareness Night. Feda was with me.
I think I remember this one.
Yes. Yeah. And she and I had done a PSA for the Warriors.
It was really good.
Yeah, thank you. And it actually was the very first one that she and I did together. It was with the moms. And the Warriors was showing it that night. And so we wanted to, I knew Feda was bringing Moo and the whole family, and we were getting ready to go, and we wanted to take Joshua, but we couldn't because, as you know, no two kids on the spectrum are identical. And so we were concerned because we knew that he's very rambunctious. He's faster than lightning. He's faster than lightning. And we knew where our seats were located, and we knew that it could be a dangerous, outing for him if we were to take him. And so we had his care provider come to stay with him. And as we were leaving to go, and his sister and I and dad were leaving, I turned around to look back, and sure enough, he was in his window, the bedroom of his window, overlooking, that overlooks the parking lot and the driveway. And his face was up, and he was just looking at us, leaving him at home. And he had that look like, why is my family leaving me? And so I just broke down crying. So I was like, this is so unfair. It's Autism Awareness Night. It's all about him, and we can't take him. And so we get there, and I'm still upset about it. And so I was determined. I talked to Feda about it, and I said, we need to talk to them and see if we need a sensory room. We need a space in here. And so we did. And it didn't happen for a few years, but it happened.
Yeah.
Eventually I got in front of them and was able to talk to them. And
that's become a thing,
that has become a thing. Have you noticed? Yes.
Yes. They have it at Giants. They have it here at SAP Pavilion where the Sharks play. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you started a trend here.
We did. When we went to talk to the Warriors about it, they embraced it. And what I did was I brought in some heavy hitters. Sean Stockton is one of the members, and I give him a lot of credit, him and his lovely wife, because they had been trying to get sensory spaces in as well. And so Sean and his wife came up and went with me to meet with the Warriors, and the Warriors said, we need to do this. So they decided that they were going to do it, and they decided to wait until they moved to the Chase Center because they knew that their contract was coming up, and they would put one in the Chase Center. They followed through on it because they brought us back in. We did a tour with them. They showed us where they're going to place the sensory space and everything, and that was great. And so they now have it. So we partnered with also the A's. So the A's now have a sensory suite. Feda used to go into it a few times and take Muhammad. But we now have a partnership with them, and they have a sensory suite there. And what Joshua's Gift does is we'll buy out a venue. We'll pay for the cost of the venue so the families don't have to. And we bring the families in. And so that's what we do when we do social excursions. We partnered with Rock and Jump here in Fremont. Feda has been quite a few times, and move, and we would buy out that venue, and we typically buy it out like the fourth Sunday of each month, and it's just our space. And parents don't have to worry about their kids trampling over other kids that are in the community and maybe receiving backlash from those parents as well.
Yeah.
And
it's so important. I talk to families all the time. Obviously, when I was president of Autism Society, SF Bay Area, I still do. I'm still, planning events for them. I'm still on their board. Yeah. But what we hear from families all the time is a lot of them just are so isolated.
Yes.
So isolated. They feel that they can't take their kid anywhere. And they're so grateful to have opportunities, whether it's a judgment-free space, right?
Right.
And where often there's also, support and amenities, like this room.
Right.
And I think it's super important. And we used to hear, I don't know about you, we used to hear from people all over California.
Yeah.
They're like, tell us about something in my area, because I can't find what you have in the Bay Area here. And
I get that all the time.
Yeah.
I get that all the time. And our goal as a foundation was really trying to minimize family isolations. We wanted to get them, we need to get them out into the public for the benefit of not just the families, but the benefit of the kids as well, and just continuing to develop those social skills. And so when we do a Rock and Jump, they have a blast. I mean, the parents, it's two accomplishments in one. The kids get to interact and jump, exert themselves, regulate themselves, and go pass out when they get home. The parents get to network, exchange information, share each other's journeys and experiences, share information, or just sit back in the massage chairs. Seriously.
Well, we'd be happy to co-sponsor another one with you. If you're planning another one,
you got
we'll pony it up. Which I want to ask, how do you raise your money?
Fundraising, Jill. Fundraising, that is it. And we have a huge gala coming up this September. September 25th. September 25th.
Watch me write it down on my calendar right now. And I remember Feda was going to be one of your honorees before COVID.
Yeah.
And then you had to cancel.
I still will be at this one. I will still be talking about her and how she inspired me to reach out to the firefighters and law enforcement as well. But it is through fundraising. And we have managed to recruit some wonderful sponsors. Kaiser has been one of our main sponsors. And we use those funds wisely throughout the year. And they really they go towards social excursions and events like this. We host several events throughout the year as well.
You've also done things like backpack giveaways.
Exactly.
Right.
So we do a back to school drive. We did that in August last year. In November, we did a turkey drive. And then in December, we do a huge toy drive.
Oh, yeah.
And that is so much fun. The toy drive is incredible because all of the toys are donated to us, Jill. Brand new. I mean, amazing stuff that is donated to us, and we just get the volunteers. The venue is given to us for every single giveaway event that we host here in Fremont by Dale Hardware, and they have an amazing parking space area for us to go and for us to distribute the giveaways. And then we do our gala. So for the last 2 years, we've done it virtually. And this year is our first year in person.
Okay.
And it's
I'll be there.
Wine tasting gala.
Okay. Sounds great. Well, we're running towards the end of our time. So I want to go to the most important topic, which is our friend Feda. Yeah. So just tell me, how did you meet Feda?
I met Feda at a support group. It was a support group that was being held here in Fremont. And it was just, she came in as one of the parents, like I did. And we were all just talking about our experiences and our journey. And our kids were really young at that time, and she was going through a lot with the diagnosis of Muhammad, and I guess her testimony just stood out. And I went up to her and started talking to her, introduced myself and started talking to her. And then she put an email out to the group, and she was talking about some things she was struggling with and how she really needed some help in the home. And I remembered responding to her and telling her, I don't live far from you. I'm more than happy to come over and help. I'll work it within my schedule. Whatever you need, I will be happy to be there for you. And that resonated with her, that she never forgot that. She never forgot that. And I went by the house and met the family, and we just clicked, and the rest is history. We just became like sisters. I mean, we were two peas in a pod. There are times when Jill, this is my first time actually talking about her publicly.
Yeah, I'm sorry if it's hard.
I know it's hard for you too.
Yeah.
And that's why I was happy to do it, because I know what she meant to you as well. It's not like talking to a reporter or someone that doesn't know Feda,
Irreplaceable human, completely genuine, completely authentic, creative, original human. I mean, no one in the world like Feda.
No, she had this ubiquitous presence,
Yeah.
And
on top of that, she texted you 20 times a day.
So oh my
she was like,
I'm like, you think? Oh my God! I remember when
I always thought she would die by driving while texting.
Right?
No, right.
Oh my God, that van was so dinged up in so many ways. I can't tell you. And I mean, just pull stuff out of her hat. She would call me while she's on the road to Sacramento. She's like, okay, I'm going to call you in the morning. I'm going to be driving to Sacramento. She would always call me when she's heading up there. We'd be on the phone, like, for like close to an hour talking. And I'm like, I do have to work. She's like, you can talk to me, and I'm like, yeah.
Priorities. Yeah, it was funny because, you met her in the earlier days before she became super advocate.
Exactly.
When she wasn't really that sure of herself, right? And she was sort of stuck in this kind of like confusion, right? And difficulty. And Muhammad was a very, very challenging young man and child.
He was. Yeah, he was. I remember going to an event with her, and he too was crying profusely, and he did not want to enter into the building. And I would do things that would just, I guess, blow her mind, but it just became instinctively natural for me to do it, right? So I said, let me go get it. So I went outside, girl, the room was packed, and she's way at the front, and that's the first time I think I've seen her mouth just drop open. She was like, because I literally walked in with Muhammad on my back. I was carrying him on my back, and I was singing to him.
Not an easy thing to do.
Not an easy thing to do. And I was singing to him, and he allowed me, and he was really little at that time. So I could do that, right? And she just couldn't believe I got him in there. I was like,
miracle Mizpah. Yeah. Well, and then she really developed, I mean, in a way, autism was her gift. And it allowed
it was a calling. It was,
it was. And here was a lady who didn't go to college.
Right. But you wouldn't have known that.
You wouldn't have known that because
you would not have known that.
So brilliant.
He was so bright, so smart, so articulate, so intelligent.
Yeah.
Had the biggest heart. But she would get down and dirty with the best of them when it meant that, look, this is what is right.
Yeah.
And this is what is needed in this community. She was a fighter. Right. We still, I talk to parents today, especially the circle of moms, because every Mother's Day, since I started the foundation, we would take the moms out on Mother's Day, right? But even prior to that, Feda and I were like, okay, what are we doing with the moms this year? And we would take them out to dinner, right? And to a movie, and then get the moms, those moms, we still stay in touch. And I had a mom just call me up the other day, and she said, Miss, I need some help on this. She goes, Feda would know what to do. She goes,
Yeah.
this is where I really, really miss Feda right now.
Mm-hmm.
I could use her help because I have no idea what I'm going to do. My son's aging out of the system.
Yep. Yep. She would help anyone who needed help with advocacy. I mean, she fought tooth and nail, not just for Muhammad, but for all kids, everyone. She almost never said no to anyone. I don't think she slept. In fact, she didn't sleep. She had terrible insomnia. And I think I would get texts, at 3 a.m. about some, tragic circumstance that she could not go to, she could not deal. I'm like, can't it wait? She's like, no, 3 a.m. we have to deal with it now.
No, that is so true. There are times when I went over to her. One time I went over to her house and literally peeled her up off the floor to go to bed because she was exhausted, but she just couldn't go to sleep because she had something so heavy on her mind that she needed to take care of. And that's who she was. And Jill, I'm telling you, I remember that day like it was yesterday. It's so vivid in my mind when I got that call and I just dropped the phone and screamed and hollered, and my husband.
Oh my God, the shock of it.
Everybody ran into the room and they were like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I'm like, that's the house, that's the house, that's the home that's away from my home. I mean, I used to stop off at Feda unannounced all the time. Okay, what's for dinner? Because she used to cook like she was cooking for a nation. Oh yeah,
she was her own restaurant. There's no question, and better than a restaurant. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
I know. Well, I know that day, just the shock, the pain of it was.
Yeah.
I just remember I just couldn't stop shaking. Just the physical, reaction I had to it.
Mm-hmm. I still drive by. It's hard for me to. I drive the main street, Mari, a lot. And I went by the house about 2 weeks ago and just sat in front of it. And I cry every time because I have so many fond memories. So many fond memories of being there, with her and the whole family. And it's never going to be the same. No, it's never going to be the same. But she's with us. She's in spirit.
She's still, as I say, she's living rent free in our brains.
So true.
She definitely is and always will. But I want to tell our audience a bit about the September 26th project. I realize we're recording this in July.
Yeah.
Feda and Muhammad died on September 26th, 2020.
Right.
And the September 26th project is basically NCSA, leading with other nonprofits, as in partnership, an effort to basically do an annual emergency preparedness reminder to autism families, not just about fires, but about any emergency that could befall them, because of course we're much more vulnerable to emergencies than other families are. And Feda's story, how she couldn't get moved down the stairs and they succumbed to this horrible smoke and died in the fire. That wouldn't have happened if Muhammad didn't have autism. That wouldn't have happened.
Right.
A typical kid, his age, 16-year-old would have run downstairs.
Right.
And it would not a problem. The house would have been sacrificed, but their lives would have been saved. But because of autism, it was autism that killed them.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah.
And we're very painfully aware of how vulnerable autism families are. And so the September 26th project, in honor of them, is basically an annual nudge, an annual kick in the pants to people, to just say, hey, have you taken basic emergency preparedness steps? Have you thought about doing this, that, or the other? Even the simplest things like, making sure your smoke and carbon monoxide alarms are working. Making sure you have a functional fire extinguisher, near your kitchen. Maybe, meeting with your local fire department and introducing your kid and say, hey, we have a special circumstance, and they might have some recommendations for you. It might be a special ID bracelet. It might be some kind of elopement prevention. There's so many things that families need. And we're not here to push. We're not here to be like, we are scolding you if you don't do these things. It's just a really gentle reminder in the hopes that some lives can be saved.
I'm with you. I am so with you on that, Jill, because I think you know that I have been working on an emergency alert as well. And we started training first responders. We started training first responders on how to respond to persons on the autism spectrum in crisis situations and in emergency situations. And that was really inspired by what happened to Feda and Moo. I, as you know, us being mothers as well of a child to autism, I would have done the same thing that Feda did. I would have perished with Joshua. I knew I would not have left him.
Right.
And but it was really a rude awakening as well for us to really pay close attention to the the fire standards or in our homes, right? And to make sure that our alarm systems are working and functioning. And also, even with the firefighting department that I've been working with, I want to even go a step further and start doing drills in the house, so that Caston doesn't go into a meltdown, with a loud siren sound that goes off. When the alarm goes off, he does that. So it's like, and we could test it even with our alarm system. When you hear this noise, we have to get out and get out immediately to safety. And so this is very, very near and dear to me. So I am 110% on board with you to help push this and to help support. Absolutely.
Okay, well, thanks. We're going to make a video for this year. It's just a short video. Maybe we'll call on you to be in the video, Mizpah. So stand by.
Thank you so
stand
much.
By. Hopefully we'll do that, late next month.
So thank you.
With that, Mizpah, thank you so much for being on our podcast. Where can people find you and or your nonprofit?
www.joshuasgift.org. Go to our website and you'll find a lot of information about what we're doing in the community. Thank you so much for having me.
It's nice to talk to you, of course.
You too.
And thank you so much. All right.
You're
hopefully
welcome.
We'll post it in August or so, but definitely before September 26th. All right.
Thanks, Jill. Good seeing you.
Signing off. Bye, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Autism Confidential. If you'd like to learn more, share an idea for an episode, or become a sponsor, please visit us at autismconfidential.org. The views expressed in this podcast are solely those of the individual speakers. Content presented is for informational purposes only, and we do not provide any medical or legal advice.